kickstart our first discussion, the staff of the Abuja Electricity Distribution Company AEDC embarked on an indefinite strike, allegedly because of the failure of management to remit deductions from their salaries. AEDC, in a statement signed by its general manager Bode Fadigbe, said the loss of power supply to some areas in FCT was due to the industrial action embarked upon by National Union of Electricity Employees. Now let's take a look at this report by one of our reporters.
Residents of Abuja and environs woke up Monday morning to a total blackout due to the indefinite strike called by the National Union of Electricity Employees, causing dislocation and stagnation of both personal and business-related activities. However, the news of the union's decision to call off the strike is greeted with a sense of relief by a cross-section of Nigerians who called on all parties involved to find an amicable solution in order to forestall future industrial actions that cause a lot of hardship for Nigerians.
Yeah, very well it will affect us because I'm a worker and I also benefit from the light, and also the NEPA also benefit from me. If I should not have light, I don't think my work will be going on smoothly. And it will also affect my other family at home. At least we need light so that everything will move well.
You know how I felt? Like I was really bitter all through yesterday. Like I was really bitter because running on generator is like killing business. After spending a lot on fuel, how much is my profit in this salon? How much do I buy for people? How much do I make air for people? So, and now you're saying 6 months. Just kill me.
The government need to call the union to talk to them, to give the staff their salary so that they will continue doing their work. Because if you are working without salary, what do you? They have family. They have family that they are feeding them too. So without the salary, they can't do anything.
Definitely, that's going to be a very big setback to the economy, not just even to the people, because we need electricity to run so many stuff. Because most things happen when there is light. You can't run your business because there's no light. You can't go to the office. You can't even do basic things when there is no light. So this is going to be a major problem, especially for small and medium scale business. And we need the government to look into this, because you can't be working. Take for instance, dry cleaners, business, they need lights, you understand? And so the government really needs to look into this, at least not to let them, at least call them together, have a meeting and see what they are demanding, and they should negotiate to know how the problems, and they should come up with a solution for this.
Reports say the suspension of the industrial action followed a meeting brokered by the Minister of State for Power, Godi Agba, between Electricity Employees Union and the government officials. The AEDC employees are demanding payment of their 2020 bonus and other entitlements. They are also demanding the remittance of pensions deducted by the company to their pension fund administrators. They allege that the remittances have not been made for the past 19 months. Meanwhile, efforts to get members of the union to comment were not successful. However, some AEDC staff who spoke off camera confirmed that part of the agreement is that their demands will be looked into within the next 21 working days. Ibrahim Yusuf, Trust TV News, Abuja.
There you have it. Now in the studio to talk about this, we have the General Manager of Corporate Communication, Abuja Electricity Distribution Company, Bode Fadigbe, in the studio to talk to us about this. Well, good morning and welcome.
Thank you for having me. Good morning. Thank you.
Well, you hear the reactions, from from members of the public. I mean, one of the ladies said,
"Just kill me."
Because, I mean, you've taken like everything. If you take electricity, it's like taking everything. What exactly is the problem?
The unions, there are two unions in most of the discos and indeed most of the value chains. You have the senior staff and then you have the National Union of Electricity Employees. The officials of the National Union of Electricity Employees called out their members over issues that they consider to be to be unfavorable to their members, and they thought that one of the ways by which they can put their views across more visibly is to ask their members to withdraw from work. Of course, management did not sit by to allow that kind of thing. Government also did not sit by, so parties got into conversation almost immediately, although later part of the day, and then by sundown that day the action was suspended, and people went back to their work. I know of a fact that it's not all strike actions that lead to loss of electricity supply. Some of those who complained about the loss of power supply to their homes and businesses and places of worship and all of those things may have lost power supply as a result of fault, not necessarily because somebody deliberately went there to switch off the power supply. Because at the risk of speaking on behalf of the unions, or the particular union that called out its members, they are quite conscious of the fact that electricity is so important to the lives of people. Somebody may be, there may be an operation going on in the hospital at that material time. There are people who are on life support and they need electricity to operate those life support apparatus. So they are always very, very reluctant to deliberately switch off power supply. Apart from that, when you switch off a certain amount of load, when you refuse to take a certain amount of load, you are putting the entire grid system in jeopardy. It could throw the whole country out of power supply. I mean, the system will begin to swing, and if you are not careful, it could just knock off the entire system. So the unions are quite conversant with that, and so what they try to do most of the time is to start with administrative work that will not necessarily affect the customers directly. And maybe if nobody is giving attention or negotiations are not going in the way they think it should go, by which they want their desires to be met almost immediately, they can then maybe go up a little bit until they get to the point where they'll say, okay, look, we are deliberately switching off power supply if you don't do
so this. If you say that, where did the information about power outage, come from?
Yes, because
of the strike action.
Because we were beginning to notice some interruptions here and there. Now, those interruptions, again, let me emphasize, because it's very, very important for Nigerians to understand the way some things work. Those interruptions may not be as a result of deliberate action, but it could be that there was a fault, and then because people have withdrawn their service, nobody is responding to that fault. Let me explain further. Doctors decide to go on strike. A patient is brought in. No doctor is attending to the patient. I don't know whether you get what I'm saying. No doctor is attending to the patient at that material time. So if a fault occurs at that material time, there may not be somebody to go and deal with the fault at that material. So that's why we specify. You will see that statement said, especially customers on our 11 kV network, because that it will be a gradual build-up. But luckily enough, parties were able to understand themselves very quickly, and then the issues were resolved.
Okay, so please, could you talk to us, about the whole issue with pension, contribution, taxes, and deductions, which was one of the issues that prompted the union to actually.
Now, these are common issues that will always engage the attention of anybody that is working anywhere. I mean, luckily enough, there is a pension act, so wherever you are working, your pension is remitted. So if for any reason those things are not going as you expect them to be, then of course attention is drawn to it, because that is supposed to be an item that will take care of you and I when we are no longer strong enough. Today we are on our feet, tomorrow depending on several factors, we are certainly not going to be strong enough as, to do certain amount of work. And money is something that everybody needs. So you want to make sure that at every point in time, that fund is kept for you until until you get to the stage or the age where the law allows you to have access to it. So apparently that was one of the source of agitation for them, and they thought that it was important for attention to be given to that kind of issue, so that those who are supposed to be the beneficiaries, they continue to have that confidence that that part of their life is secured.
Okay. Now, I will take us back just a bit, about this issue of, power generation. The Transmission Company of Nigeria released a statement suggesting that there's available bulk power, enough has been generated, but then there's a problem of taking that power, by the distribution companies to their customers and all of that. Talks about the substations, injection substations, something about that, and that has been disrupted, because of the shutdown of tools, by workers in the AEDC. What would you say about that?
Well, I think what my colleague in transmission was trying to explain is that if a load center like Abuja Disco is not taking load, we may ultimately get to the point, like I said, where the grid will go into some disturbance mode. In the power sector, there is a frequency at which electricity is sent out. It's usually at 50 hertz. This is a bit of technical engineering now. It's usually at 50 hertz. So it oscillates between 49, 50, 51. It must not go above certain frequency. It must not fall below certain frequency. It's just like your blood pressure. It must not go above certain level. It must not fall below certain level, or your sugar level and things like that. So what she was actually trying to do, from my own understanding of the statement that she issued, is that, okay, look, we're having a challenge here. For us, we have the power, but because Abuja Disco, through their union, is not taking that power, this is a challenge that we are having. I don't want to go into other parts of the implications of that statement, but I think suffice it to say that Abuja takes a lot of load. For instance, on a daily basis, but when I say Abuja, I'm talking about our entire franchise area, which covers the Federal Capital Territory, Kogi, Nasarawa, and Niger. On a daily basis, we take between over 300 megawatts, 300 to 400 megawatts. In some instances, we even get up to 500 megawatts. Our capacity can run up to 800 to 1,000 megawatts per day, but we get something about 60% of what our capacity actually can accommodate. So if you have such amount of load that is gradually receding, then it means that and you don't have another load center to receive that amount of energy immediately, then there could be a bit of a challenge. I mean, it's just like you have so much of this energy here, but it's not being taken, and there is no place where you want to push it to immediately for maybe some technical
So that's
reasons.
more like an infrastructural problem here. We do not have enough capacity to absorb all the power that is being generated.
That's right. That's why I said I don't want to go into the technicalities of that statement. Otherwise, a man on the street will come to the kind of conclusion that you are drawing, that, okay, look, if A is not taking the load, can't you give it to B? If you cannot give it to B, what are the constraints that you have?
Exactly.
Do you get what I'm saying? Because ordinarily, we are in a country where we are over 200 million people, and if you go by United Nations calculation of what amount of energy is supposed to be available, we should be talking of about 200,000 megawatts. Now, we are not anything near 200,000 megawatts. We are not even anything near 50,000 megawatts. So it means that there is insufficiency at the manufacturing point. So if anybody is not taking that load that you have given, then ordinarily you should move to the next person almost immediately. Do you get what I'm saying? So, but if that is not happening, and then we now have to warn the country to say that, okay, look, this is the challenge that we are having, then ordinarily somebody will come to the kind of conclusion that you have come to now.
Okay.
Okay.
So could you talk to us, about the new management that is likely to be announced, following the suspension of the
that will be a little bit, with profound respect, that will be asking me to look at the crystal ball. Unfortunately, I'm not gifted in the area of clairvoyance. Octopus Paul, I think that was what he was supposed to be doing for the World Cup. Unless I begin to interact with these people, I may not be able to offer a comment about that area. But suffice it to say that what everybody is looking for at the end of the day is that there is power supply 24/7. I mean, it doesn't matter who the person is. What is important is the person's administrative pedigree, professional pedigree, ability to deal with the issues as they arise on a daily basis, both the human capital, both the technical side of it, both the financial side of it, all of the resources put together, you are able to manage them in such a way that you are able to achieve the goal that those resources have been made available for.
Okay, so but do we really have, the capacity to generate power 24/7?
We do have the capacity. We have the capacity. I think the last time I had the opportunity to be on this program, one of your colleagues did ask me what's our ability to deal with power supply in Nigeria. We certainly do have the capacity. What I think we just need, we just need the extra energy, the extra will to push certain things. I mean, we've been coming down this road of privatization for 8 years now, and definitely we have not gotten to where we want to be, but we are not where we were. I mean, we've left the place we were before now, and there has been some progress. I can say that confidently. I once told a group of people that all the discos have put in at least 100% of what they made. For instance, in Abuja Electricity, when we came in 2013, 2014, we came in precisely October 31st, 2013. We barely met any vehicle on ground. Today, as I speak to you, we have over 200 work vehicles. Over 200 work vehicles. The number of transformers we met on ground were quite few. We have improved on those number of transformers. Our transformer holding can be less than 4,000 today. The same thing with our capacity to receive energy. I think we got in with about 1,700 and something. We're over 4,000 today, our capacity to receive electricity. So, and I'm sure this speaks for all the discos. They have put in investments here and there. I also know that generation is doing quite a lot. The same thing with transmission. If I don't know anything at all, I know that transmission has done a major project in Nasarawa State, working hand in hand with Niger Delta Power Holding Company of Nigeria. That project is about being commissioned. If that project is commissioned, it will be a big relief for us in the disco, because the whole of Mararaba, Karu, Jikoi, Orozo, Karishi, all of those axes will be free because we can get more power from Nasarawa State. Right now, we are moving power from Apo through that track, going to Akwanga, and then feeding it deeper and deeper into Nasarawa State. But when that project comes on stream, when we begin to pick load from there, we can cut off the whole of Nasarawa State and then restrict the power that we are taking from Apo to the federal capital. That's a big relief. That's a big relief for us.
Okay, now, yeah, a lot of progress have been made, just like you've highlighted now. But some Nigerians will say it's rather slow, compared to the need that we have, for more, for availability of power in virtually every strata, of our engagement. So why can't we have, an improved kind of a speed, in setting up some of these things, to make it much better? Because, yeah, if, for instance, Abuja Electricity Distribution Company is taking care of, say, Nasarawa State and, many others, just like you highlighted earlier on, don't you consider that as a problem? Do you see need for us to decentralize, the distribution channels?
I'm sure you are speaking to the issue of the size of the geography that a disco like Abuja Electricity has to manage.
Yes.
If tomorrow the thinking is that we need to become, we need to micromanage, or we need to go smaller, it's okay. It depends on the perspective from which you are looking at it. Daily Trust, for instance, could say I don't need a correspondent in Calabar. I can always access my news from other platforms, or whatever it is. Okay, look, I want to have an office. It depends on what business strategy you want to deploy. But I think at the end of the day, the key issue that we should be looking at is the ability to manage all of these areas. Size may not be a problem. What I think is the biggest challenge for me are in two parts: the sociology of electricity supply, and then the finance of electricity supply. For me, I have looked at power supply in this country from four perspectives: the sociology, the technology, the politics or policies, and then which other one is there? But let me explain it this way. The technology is available for power supply. But what about the finance? How much are Nigerians ready to pay? How many Nigerians are ready to pay? I know, and I must say this to the credit of Nigerians, that
Nigerians ready to pay, or whether Nigerians can pay.
Well, both sides.
We're going to get back, to that discussion. Let's take a quick break. When we come back, the show continues.
Okay.
All right, thank you for staying with us. You're still watching Daybreak on Trust Television. We're talking about power, and we have in the studio the General Manager, Corporate Communication, Oyebode Fadipe, in the studio talking to us about, the recent happenings surrounding power. Now, you were talking about, the finance, angle, or I'll say perspectives to power generation in Nigeria.
Yes, I was trying to deal with the issue of affordability. Yes, I know that the issue of affordability is there, but it's a matter of the chicken and the egg. Which one comes first? So if you are talking about affordability and we are talking about availability, which one do we need to choose?
Well, scientists have made it easier for us now. They've discovered that it's the chicken, actually. So,
so which one is the chicken in our analogy now? Is it the affordability or the
availability? In this instance, maybe we'll talk about the affordability.
Yes, I do admit, quite frankly, that because of several factors complicated more by the COVID-19 pandemic, affordability has become an issue. But we need to make a choice, make it available, and then see how we can push it into the public space for people to get it. And that's where the issue of subsidy comes in from government. But government is already saying, look, I don't have the muscle, the financial muscle to take all of those stress. I mean, the conversations going on within our economy today is petrol subsidy, electricity subsidy, and several subsidies. Power supply is not cheap. Power supply, medicals, security, education, these 4 areas are not cheap in any economy all over the world.
Okay. Now, let me just quickly take you, because we're almost rounding up now. We talked about Abuja, the AEDC having to be the one to supply Nasarawa, Kogi,
Niger, Kogi,
parts of Edo, Niger, and even Kaduna.
Okay, yes, part of Edo, yes.
Yes, and even Kaduna and Niger. Now, talking about the politics of power, do you see that as responsible for why this arrangement is, and you know,
no, that's purely for technical convenience. That's purely for technical convenience. Let's not forget the fact that we were a monolithic entity before. In other words, what you have now used to be under one management structure. So if power supply gets to Edo State and you have a boundary town between Edo and Kogi State, like Okene and maybe Okpila, if you know that track, or let's say even FCT and Kogi State. I think the last town in FCT before you enter Kogi is Abaji or Kwali or something like that. Now, if electricity is coming from Gwagwalada traveling through Abaji and it gets to the boundary between Kogi and FCT, you won't say that you first of all go and bring electricity from Lokoja to that place. Your closest point is FCT. So you just move electricity into Kogi State. Now, if another company owns Kogi State and is expected to supply electricity, the sensible thing to do is to import from from the closest point and then do your market settlement. I don't know whether you see the point I'm trying to make. Rather than say, okay, because for every electricity you see in every home, for every bulb that is lighted in every home, you can trace the wire to a particular power station. That is the issue with the grid, which makes it totally different from alternative solutions like solar, wind, and things like that. The electricity that we are using currently here, you can trace it to a particular power station, and it means wire has to be connected with wire to wire until you get to the power station.
Talking about wires,
yes.
I'm just tempted to talk about this tragedy in Lagos. Some northern bound travelers were electrocuted yesterday.
Okay.
About 5 of them. I don't know if you've heard about that.
What happened? I'm just seeing it.
Yes,
now.
So they were in a truck, moving from Lagos, coming down the northern part of the country. And then somehow, probably the wires, the poles and everything, the way we do connections, sometimes in some of these slums and some of these areas. And then they got electrocuted. The wires tempered with the vehicle, I may say, and then about 5 of them died as a result of it. That's quite a tragic issue, but maybe you should talk about the social problem of power, in light with this.
Now, first and foremost, I'm not happy that we are even talking about the place the people were going to. Is immaterial whether they were going to the north, whether they were going to the east, whether they were going to the west, anywhere they were going to. It's immaterial for me, because we need to be sensitive to certain things in this country. We are quite emotive about our geography. The first thing for me is humanity. It's sad that we lost those number of people. It's very, very sad. In the same Lagos State, about 3 or 4 days ago, a trailer crushed about 18 school children. I'm not interested in, those children may have been made up of children from the east, from the west, from the north, from any other part of the country. But first and foremost, they are human beings. They met that unfortunate fate and things like that. Now, having said that, I suspect that those in the vehicle, I don't even know the kind of vehicle, perhaps it was an articulated vehicle. Truck. They must have made contact with the lines. Usually when people are going to travel under electricity line, they are supposed to have gone close to the operators of that network to say, we are passing under this line. Can you switch off or get people to travel with us for that space and push it up with insulated apparatus. Electricity is an extremely bad master when it wants to act as a, when you give it the opportunity to act as a master. Otherwise, it can be a very good slave to you, for you to use.
But why must we have wires this low, you know, such that they become a problem?
Now, I wouldn't know the height, but if it's degenerated so low, it's bad network. If it because it's supposed to have a particular height. But you also know that most of our people too, the way they sit in these vehicles, some of them go and sit at a point where they are so projected, and our knowledge about this thing is at times close to nothing. We think the wires are just there lying without any danger. I mean, my people say, I mean, people have said that, I hope this is correct, that the snake said that, except if not that I am a bit poisonous, men would have used me as rope to bring firewood. You know that? Okay. So at times we look at these wires and think that they are not dangerous, but they are dangerous.
Indeed,
they are dangerous,
and it's quite, you know, a sad.
So it's very, very sad, and our condolences to the families of those who have lost those children. I mean, any of them could become Nigeria's president. That would solve most of our problems. It's quite sad for me.
Well, thank you so much for coming on the program, and we hope to have you next time.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, we've been speaking with the General Manager, Corporate Communication, AEDC, Oyebode Fadigbe. He's been giving us perspectives on the recent happenings in the power sector. We look forward to having you on the program again.
Thank you very much. It's my pleasure.